Awusangena thina emavulandlela singenile ke emakhaya emadolobheni asetkomplasta khona kuphina kuphi lapho ubukela mabona kuze wakho lamba embili SABC 1 Mzansi for sure njengenjalo kumbukeli nawe ungevakalisa luvo lakho ngesihloko sanamhla ngekushayela licingo ku 011 714 6918 noma ku 011 714 6919 wasithumela futhi ne-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za or get in touch with us on our social media platforms. Sawubona ke mbukeli, I'm your host Mphiwe Ngongwane and this is your ride. Leli Yilungelo Lakho. All right, if you're living in a flat, in a townhouse, or maybe any sectional title scheme offers convenience and security for many consumers, but not knowing your rights or falling foul of your responsibilities could land you in conflict with the rules of such residential schemes. Ngaphambi kokuthi ke singise inkinga netingcinamba letimbazakanya kuhlala kwetindlu tema-complex asasibukeke na umbiko.
Uma uthenga indlu kwi-complex usuke ngezinye izikhathi ungacabanga ukuthi kuyoba khona usuku la uyoxabana khona nabangamele loyo complex ibody corporate ngolwasemzini. Kodwa kuningi okunganixabanisa ikakhulukazi uma kubandakanya imithetho eyongamele leyo complex. Ungenze njani uma kungathi nje ngolunye usuku kufika incwadi ethi indlu yakho isifakwe endalini ngobukweleta ama-levy akwi-complex? Lona ngubaba David Williams wathenga lo muzi kwenye ama-complexes eRodiport eGoli ngonyaka ka-1996. Usewukhokhele wawuqedwa ebhange, kodwa manje le ndlu yakhe isifakwe endalini idayiswa abakwa-body corporate be-complex bathi ukweleta ama-levy.
They had a second judgment that was taken out, I think, in 2015. Yeah, from those years, from 2011 to 2015, where the second judgment accumulated to 90,000 in arrears. Then from 2015 until 2017, now it accumulated to nearly 200,000.
Umuzi kababa David usendalini ka-190,000. Ukuyimali okuthiwa uyayikweleta. Agcini lapho, lo muzi awusenawo ugesi. Ubody corporate lona wawucisha ugesi eminyakeni emithathu eyedlule. Ubaba David wathatha isinqumo sokuqashisa umuzi wakhe. Uthenje Mnguni lona ungumqashi. Uthi impilo inzima ngoba nje ugesi wacinywa. Uthi usehlala iminyaka ngaphandle kagesi kulendlu.
Yabo ngipheka ngegas stove sebenzisa amakhandlela, and the sad thing when it comes so sad, like yabona like njoba sibuya ku cold front nge weekend when it's freezing and the gas is running low. No, ngisho ukuthi ngoba niyazi I cold front was all over. We have had so many such cold days and told you sometimes anginayo house njengoba manje gas yami is running low. Umntana nami uphuma ngo6 o'clock endlini, which means he can't even bath in the morning.
Ubusika nobusika bufika bedlule bengena gesi, kanti yonke impahla yasendlini esebenzisa ugesi isalala ukhula. Ubaba David uthusezame konke ukuxazulula lenkinga, kodwa kwanhlanga zemuka nomoya.
I went to different departments. I went to rental tribunal, to human rights, to legal aid, and to pro bono attorneys who tried to assist me in this matter.
Sivakashela uJelf Gilmore ongumengameli enkampanini ebhekelele ukuhlalisana kwabathengi kanye nabangamele ama-complexes kuleli inkampani i-Association of Residential Communities. uJeff uthi abathengi kufuze bafundisise kahle imithetho yalapho bethenga khona futhi bayiqonde.
In a sectional title scheme where there isn't full title over the property, but owners would then own sections of the development, and there's a Sectional Titles Act within which they will have to comply. Those two acts are different, and the Sectional Titles Act has sets of rules in place that would govern the body corporate in respect of how they look after the particular complex. In a freehold environment with a homeowners association, it's only the Companies Act that would be used in terms of the directors.
uJeff uthi abathengi akufuze bahlomeke nje ngoba bayozithola bexakekile.
Essentially, they're buying into a community, and by agreeing to buy into the community in respect of the deed of sale, they are accepting that that community is governed by directors or trustees, and the decisions of those directors and trustees, according to the relevant acts, is binding, and they would need to then comply with those.
Ukuze ungazitholi ukulenkinga, fundisisa yonke imininingwane. Ungabi nehaba, kanti futhi yazi yonke imithetho ephathelene nalapho uyohlala khona noma lapho uthenga khona. Hlengiwe wakwamabaso Yilungelo Lakho.
Hayi sabonga ngalo mbiko lo shaqisa ligogo lesiyondoleke ngumhlengi wemabaso. Ngiyaloke ukukhuluma kabanti ngamalungelo akho asamukele Marina Costas. She is a sectional title scheme specialist from BBM Attorneys. We also welcome the acting chief ombuds for community scheme services, and we are expecting her. She'll join us shortly. And from Port Elizabeth Studios, we have Chantel van Heerden Lomelege, National Association of Managing Agents. A very good afternoon to you, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Simpiwe. Lovely to be here.
All right, and to you, Chantel, a very good afternoon to you in our PE studios. All right, now, Marina, I'm going to start with you to comment and give us your reaction about the case of David Williams from Roodepoort, whose house is now put up to auction as a result of his inability or failure to pay his electricity fees.
Simpiwe, I think it's all a matter of being empowered to understand what your roles and responsibilities are as an owner in a sectional title scheme. And I think with levies and electricity, it's really important to remember that while you have an obligation to pay your levies and your electricity in a scheme, because it is a scheme which is run by a Sectional Title Schemes Management Act, trustees also have a reciprocal obligation to act legally and within the boundaries of the law. So your listeners out there need to understand that trustees switching off electricity unilaterally is not on unless they've got a court order to do so. And that's pretty clear. Services such as water, electricity, access cards, all those type of things, you can't just remove them from somebody because else they can get a spoliation order. So an owner, like the gentleman in the video, could have got a spoliation order to get back his electricity. But at the same time, the body corporate may suffer if electricity, water, levies aren't paid, because that building's got a reputation to uphold. They've got maintenance to do. They've got employees to pay. So there's got to be, it's a bit of a balancing act, but owners need to know that they've got rights.
Yeah. And in terms of the balancing act, as you just mentioned, is it legal, though, for the body corporate to put out a house in auction just to recover a meager electricity bill?
There's been a long process before that execution order. So there's been a summons that was issued. There was a letter of demand now that has to go out. There's a default judgment that was taken. So at all those stages, the owner would have been in a position to try to resolve the matter. And some owners just get debilitated with fear. They're nervous about getting a summons, so they don't say anything. Instead of approaching the managing agent and saying, how can we settle this? How can we work together to make sure that I pay it off or whatever it is. But before it goes to the sale and execution, there's probably been about 8 or 9 months before that of legal process. But yes, you can sell a house in execution based on failure to pay arrear levies and electricity and
water. Isn't that infringing on the rights of the owner, though?
Well,
like,
again,
for instance, I buy a 2.5 million rand house, and then I owe electricity to the value of maybe 10 to 20,000 rand. And then is it really fair for my house to be auctioned for that amount?
Well, we've got to show the courts good cause. So if I've got a matter where I'm instituting action against an owner in default, then we've got to go to the court and show good cause as to why that unit should be attached. And good cause is that very often all the other owners in that unit are subsidizing the person who's not paying. So when you buy into sectional title, into a townhouse or a flat, you've got to realize that it is a community and that if you're not paying, then other people are paying on your behalf. And that becomes an issue.
All right. Now, Chantel, on the case of David Williams, I'm sure you've seen in the insert, his house has now been put up for auction because of his inability to pay his electricity tariffs. What's your reaction to that?
You know, Simpiwe, like Marina's just explained, owners have a responsibility to, when they buy into any community scheme, to make sure that they acquaint themselves with the scheme rules and that they fully understand what they're buying into. As Simpiwe has rights, similarly the body corporate has a right, and they have the right to receive regular and prompt levy payments. You know, it's sad that they have to move to actually attach his immovable property, but Marina has explained the processes that are followed in law in order to recover that debt. And it is actually quite sad that the owner, in all probability, whether he did or not, made any attempts to, with the body corporate and the trustees, make payment arrangements to settle the debt. Yeah, and it is quite sad that he now stands at the cusp of, in all probability, losing that property.
So what do you think the remedy is then at the disposal of Mr. Williams?
You know, if the courts have already issued the attachment order, Mr. Williams can still approach the attorneys who represent the body corporate and make an attempt to enter into installment arrangements to try and settle the debt. The attachment of the immovable property is, like Marina explained, the last recourse in an attempt to recover the outstanding debt.
All right, thank you, Chantel. And now in studio, in our Johannesburg studio, we welcome Advocate Singh Litele. She is the Acting Chief Ombudsman for Community Schemes. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right. In the insert, we have David Williams, whose house has been put up for auction as a result of his inability to pay his electricity tariffs. The house is being auctioned by the body corporate. So we're now discussing the rights available to Mr. Williams. What do you think should be done, and what are his rights and his responsibilities in this particular instance?
The rights of Mr. Williams obviously would be to approach the ombuds, but if a decision has already been done or taken by the court, there's really not much we can do, except we also have a mediation service which we do to try and intervene at a mediation level, even though at that point the mediation would have been done. But I always believe that you can always negotiate something. So if we can negotiate with the parties, because at that time, there's really not much that we can do once the court has made a decision. But if we can be able to negotiate with the parties concerned, with the body corporate, to see what arrangement can be put in place.
So have you dealt with such cases before, and what
yes,
has
in coming
into
this office now, I've actually had a matter where they were actually going to sell somebody's property last week. And it's a matter which happened even before I came into the office. I called the attorneys, and we arranged that they should at least stay the process of selling the property until the matter is set down for adjudication. It had actually gone to the courts, and at the stage where now an attachment order had been done and they were ready to sell the property.
Right.
So we have said that because the other party, the applicant on our side, is busy saying that as the ombuds, we must do something. So the only way of intervening in such a case was to talk to both parties, and the attorneys for the body corporate at least agreed with me. Right. And we decided that the matter should be set down for June, and they decided not to go ahead with the sale. So that way, the matter will be heard before an adjudicator. Okay. And I have impressed on the person, on the applicant, that it doesn't mean that because this process hasn't happened, as the ombud, we are saying that the property is not going to be sold. Okay. We are putting it before an independent adjudicator to hear the matter and come up with an outcome.
All right. Hayi ke mbukeli asibambe lapho sisishilele ngasetolo siyabuya khona nyalo. So umukela futhi mbukele kanzi nawe ungaba ingcenye lohlelo namhla ngikushela licinga ku 011 7146918 noma ke 011 7146919. Sikhona ke na ku email likheli lethu ngu consumer@sabc.co.za. We are also on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @simsngongwane, and of course on Facebook. Now we continue with our conversation. Before we delve deeper into the conversation, let's just broaden our understanding as to what really is a sectional title living, what does it entail, and what are the rights and responsibilities of the consumer? I'm going to start with you.
When you buy into a sectional title scheme, you're buying the unit that you live in, you're buying a share in the common property, and you might even have an area like a garden or a carport that you use. So it's a wonderful way to buy into a community environment where you've got all the benefits of living in a safe, secure, sort of lock up and go type of environment, where you've got people around you, so it's quite a social environment as well. But at the same time, a very wise judge once said to me, you have the absolute right not to buy into sectional title. The minute that you do, you are encompassed with a lot of rules and conduct rules and management rules, which you have to read very carefully to decide whether or not you actually want to get into this complex. So it's very important that before you go in, you see, is the complex is it maintained properly? Is there going to be a lot of money used going forward? Who are the trustees? Is the building in arrears with council? Is it in arrears? Are there a lot of people in the building who are in arrears? Very, very important little things to note. And of course, you have to read those rules before you sign that you offer to purchase the property.
All right. Advocate, how do you weigh in on this?
Supporting what Marina has saying, has already said, is also to say that it is very important to actually look into the rules, the conduct rules before you buy. And you find in our society in South Africa, a lot of our young people who never lived in these areas now are moving into these sectional titles, and they need to read the rules. I know it's not always something that you do when you're going to buy. You are excited, you want to move into this area,
I can imagine,
but you need to read the rules first, because once you get into the place, you must know how to conduct your life, because it's not just yourself. As she said, there are common areas that you share. You have your space, but you also need to respect other people who have also bought into the same scheme, while you also have to enjoy your space and enjoy, you know, wherever you are, but ensure that there are certain rules that you need to look out for. You can't just, for example, park your car anywhere. If the rules say you have to park in your own space, and if you need extra space or for your visitors, you need to park in the particular spaces where it's supposed to be for visitors, and then there would be penalties. You must understand all that before you move in. You can't complain once you have bought into it, because you will not pack overnight and decide to leave.
Indeed.
Yes.
All right, now Chantel, over to you in Port Elizabeth. So let's talk a bit more about the pros and the cons of owning a sectional title unit, and what is it that potential owners or would-be owners of a sectional title unit should look out for before buying in a gated community?
Yes, and you know, very important. Anybody interested in buying into a gated community scheme, it's imperative that they understand the terms and concept of sectional title, that they understand the role of the trustees, and that they fully understand the role of the managing agent, if so appointed by the Board of Trustees. You know, owner apathy is a big problem when buying into sectional title schemes, where you find that the owners are not involved with the management and control of the community scheme. So when you're interested in buying into that scheme, you need to understand that you're buying into a community setup. You need to abide by the rules and regulations of that community setup. You need to respect all the people around you. And similarly, if you want to bring in an animal into the scheme, and that is generally a big bone of contention, whether pets are permitted to be held within a community scheme setup. So pros and cons, you know, you have to look at your needs, what you as a consumer or an owner want when you move into that scheme. And then you need to look at the rules of the scheme, as has been mentioned, whether those rules are conducive to your living environments.
Right. All right, thank you so much, Chantel. We've got Moses from Berea on the line. A very good afternoon to you, Moses. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, how are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you? What's on your mind, sir? How can you help you this afternoon?
Yes, I just want to find out something. I'm living in a sectional title scheme whereby we had a debt of about 4 million rand, and City Council decided to cut that money to write it off. And after they write it off, the administrator that is administering the building, he's still continuing to actually attach immovable properties of people. So I just wanted to find out if that's the case, how should that be treated? Let's say, for instance, if you got a reduction of the whole building, what does it not supposed to be shared among as well, to be minused as well from the levies of those that of the owners? That's my question.
All right, Moses, thank you so much for a call. Our experts will address your concern. Ladies, how do you address this concern?
Yeah, Moses, I think, first of all, just to unpack what it means that your building is under an administrator. When a building goes under an administration, it used to be in the High Court, now it's in the Magistrates Court. An owner would have applied to courts to put the building under administration, which means that the administrator steps in because there's misadministration or maladministration. The trustees can't deal with the building, nobody's paying their levies, etc. So the administrator is appointed by the court, they come in, and then for a 6-month or a year, they've got to run that building. They've got to then go back to court to give a report, and now it's in the Magistrates Court since the new legislation. You can do it through the Mag Court. So that administrator would have to go back to the court to explain exactly how has this debt been written off. Yeah. If the debt's been written off, why are they still attaching immovable property, and what is actually the process that has been followed legally. So that sounds to me like something which they have to investigate urgently, because that administrator needs to really be on top of his game to understand if a council's written off that debt, that's marvellous. There should be a way forward. What is the financial way forward for that building? Doesn't sound correct to me that they're still attaching immovable property.
Right. All right, thank you so much for that. Mbugele, this conversation is getting better and better, but then for now we'll take a short break. Stop and just buya khona nyalo. Ayishashisa ke Mbugele usithinze ungazoshiya isikhathi. Inombolo tethu ngu 011-714-6918 noma ke 011-714-6919. They are on your screens right now. Ukheli lethu ke le email ngu-consumer@sabc.co.za. Siphinde sibe khona futhi na ku Facebook naye ke ku Twitter. Okay, let's take a look at some of the Facebook messages that you've been sending us as the show started. Vic Vui uthi yena ke Yilungelo Lakho is alive indeed. I couldn't agree with you more, Vui. And Sinazo Qobo says these things are happening and asazi ukuthi sicomplaina kuphi at Fontaine. Sihla Mkhize uthi yena too much problems seqashazo eThekwini CBD. We are only allowed a maximum of 4 visitors per day. Imagine if I'm sick, abangani nesihlobo abakwazi ukuzongibona. Ama visitors akhokha 70 rand per night for a sleepover or else from 8 a.m. siphume ngo 10 p.m. But you have to beg ukuthi bazocleana ama-windi nama-corridors. Udoti nje ubuye ungaqoqwa, ama-lift uma engasebenzi uyazibonela, awutshelwa. Intercom if ingasebenzi uzobona ngama-visitors esenokha emnyango nama-hawkers edayisa. Ungazi angene kanjani kwi-security. Tebogo Masilela uthi yena Yilungelo Lakho is the best to help us to know amalungelo wethu. That's what we strive to do. We only strive to serve you. Well, thank you so much for the Facebook messages that have been coming through. Now, Marine, I'm going to start with you. One of the viewers is complaining that, there's limitations in terms of the number of visitors. Is their rights being infringed in that particular instance?
Yes, I think visitors and occupants are the responsibility of the owner. And I don't think there's such an issue or shouldn't be such an issue with how many visitors you can have in your unit, as long as you comply with the rules of the scheme and with the Act. So as an owner, you've got a duty not to create a nuisance or cause a nuisance to any other owner in the scheme. You've got an obligation to ensure that what you do in your section doesn't negatively, materially affect the value or utility of your unit. I think the bigger problem, Simpiwe, is the issue of overcrowding, where you've got permanent number of people staying over. So, for example, you might have 10 or 12 people staying in a 3-bedroomed unit, which may be against certain bylaws, because it's not only the Sectional Title Schemes Management Act that you're dealing with, but it's also your municipal bylaws in terms of overcrowding in a unit.
All right, Chantel, one of the viewers is actually complaining that they are paying levies on a monthly basis, but some of the lifts are not working, their places are not cleaned, yet they're paying levies. What exactly do the levies cover?
Look, the levy Simpiwe that generally the managing agent with the assistance of the trustees draft a budget of income and expenses. The budget will then set out all the requirements for the particular scheme, i.e. lift maintenance, cleaning of common properties such as window cleaning, grass cutting, maintenance of the infrastructure, whether it is the intercom system, electrical fencing, and so forth. So the budget that is then approved by the owners at an annual general meeting must set out all those repairs and maintenance items so the owners understand fully what they are paying the levies for and what is happening to the monthly levies that is collected by the managing agents on behalf of the body corporate. And if the services are not rendered, the owner must go to the trustees, failing that, the managing agent, and find out exactly what is happening with the levies that are collected monthly and why are the services not being rendered. And again, if they cannot come, if they do not answer or cannot explain what is happening to the money, approach the chief ombud. Approach the Ombuds office for relief because they can make an order in that regard to assist the owners.
All right, Chief Ombud, I'm sure you've been dealing with such cases. What are some of those such cases you've dealt with in the past?
Well, from my experience, as I indicated, I just came into the office, but I have worked previously in a similar position, although under the Gauteng Rental Housing Tribunal. Okay. But now, as the Ombuds, where we deal now purely with the sectional title because the tribunal did not have jurisdiction, I can answer from that perspective, knowing that what we're supposed to do, because the matter has to be heard by our ombuds, and an order will be given, actually, in a case where the owner is not doing certain things, and sometimes it would be a tenant in my unit, but I'm not maintaining, but they are paying. All their levies are paid, and the rental is paid. That should not be the case because the maintenance, the lifts must be working and everything. So it should not be the obligation now of the person who's paying again to go and see that these things are also working. So that's exactly as it has been mentioned.
Indeed.
Yes.
All right then, we've got Dan on the line from Bloemfontein. A very good afternoon to you, Dan.
Yes, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? How can our guests help you today?
Yes, I'm renting a flat here at Brandbach Flat. Actually, yes. You know, I lost a job there, I think it was 2015. And then I went straight to Free State Housing Development to report this case. And then as a loyal tenant, and then they told me, they didn't give me alternative. They said to me I must hand over a flat. And then I was paying 700 and I think that was 700 by that time. I'm renting one bedroom. And suddenly, while I was staying here without paying, I received a call from their attorneys, which is Ramtalo and Leonard. And then those people, they told me I must appear, I must come to their offices to talk about this issue. I went straight to them, and then they said to me, they asked me why I didn't pay the flat, the rent actually. I said to them, I'm not working. They said to me, okay, make the affidavit statement, go to police station to show us that you are no longer working. And then I went back to the police station. I stamped everything, and then later I received, they said to me they are going to give me something like 3 months to look for a job because the credit, which means the monthly, the money that I was paying monthly, it was increasing each and every month. I was receiving the statement. And then those people, the issue that I was having here at the flat, I was like, you know, 2014, we spent the whole October, November, December, January. There was a water that is coming inside the house. And then we confronted the caretakers.
All right,
and then they said,
then I think we've got the gist of your question, and then our guests, our experts will certainly address that issue. But then we'll take a short break now. We'll be right back. As I spin the spiel, please join us after this break. Ngisakumula futhi ngibukele uma ufuna ukubeka umbono wakho sheshisa usithinze ungazishiya isikhathi khona manje. Inombolo yethu get this screen right now 0117146918 noma ke 0117146919. Ungasithumela futhi ne-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za noma ke uphawule ku Facebook noma ke ku Twitter. Before we went onto the break, Dan from Bloemfontein raised a very pertinent question that which touches on the relationship between the owner of a unit and the tenant. How would you address that, Marina?
So, Simpiwe, it's an interesting one because we need to unpack the relationship between a tenant in sectional title and an owner. Before the new legislation came in on the 7th of October last year, the only relationship that the body corporate had was with the owner. If the tenant misbehaved, if the tenant didn't pay, it was nothing to do with the body corporate. The body corporate would look directly at the owner to make sure the owner had the tenant conduct himself in accordance with the Act. Okay. When the Community Scheme Ombuds Service Act came out, it created this umbrella body over homeowners association, sectional title, share blocks, retirement villages, and also tenants. So now tenants, if they've got a problem, like Dan had a whole lot of interesting issues, they can go straight to the ombud to complain about that. And in a similar fashion, a body corporate who's got a problem with a tenant can also go to the ombud. So a tenant now has an elevated position under the Community Scheme Ombud Act.
Now, advocates, unit owner and tenant headaches, how do you address those?
Yes, before the new legislation came in, actually, the tenant in a situation of a sectional title had a problem. If they had a problem, they could only, if they had an issue with the owner, because as Marina has indicated, the relationship was between the owner and the body corporate, not with the tenant. Okay. And if the tenant had issues in the building and they referred the matter to the rental tribunals, which are there, where it's a forum for landlords and tenants, you'd find that the tribunal could not summon the body corporate because the tribunal had no jurisdiction to come to the tribunal and allow them to be heard with the tenant. But now with the ombud, the tenant can actually approach the ombud, as Marina has indicated, with the dispute. So it has actually assisted, the tenants to have more rights, whereas there were limitations in terms of before the new legislation, in terms of, for example, other existing legislation that the rental tribunal. So the body corporate knew very well that, the tribunals had no jurisdiction and they could impose certain penalties on the tenant. Sometimes because of the owner, the tenant ends up being the one who has to bear the brunt, but the tenant is busy paying, but the owner is not passing over the money. Right. But the only way that the body corporate ensures the tenant is the one maybe that will suffer, they'll switch off electricity. And if the tenant runs to the tribunal has got no jurisdiction. We can't switch on the electricity if the body corporate has done that. Now with the new legislation, you see the tenant can actually approach the ombud with the dispute. It can be resolved. All
right. Now, Chantel, back to you. Say a unit owner decides to lease his or her unit to a tenant, and that contractual obligation between owner and tenant, is it supposed to be a carbon copy between the contractual obligation between the owner and the body corporate? Because clearly the rules won't change, would they?
No, Simpiwe, you're quite right. It is basically a carbon copy. So whatever rights the owner acquired at the time when he purchased that unit or section or sections in a community scheme, those rights pass over to the tenant when the tenant takes occupation of that property. So whatever obligations rest upon the owner now similarly rest on the tenant, and the tenant has to comply with the rules and regulations, and he basically steps into the shoes of the owner, and he similarly has rights and obligations. And the tenant has a right to enjoy his common property or his unit and the common property. If there's a problem with his unit where there's water ingress, as your caller explained, they need to establish where the water is coming from. So the body corporate cannot step back and say, you know what, we're not going to deal with the tenant, we will only deal with the owner. They must listen to the tenant, they must address the complaints, and they must resolve the complaints.
So if the owner refuses to evict an unruly tenant, is there anything that the body corporate can do apart from, of course, raising fines for breaching the rules?
Yeah. Look, raising fines, you must remember that the party against whom a fine is raised has the right to be heard. So if there's a noise complaint or a complaint raised against the occupant of the unit, the body corporate should really invite that occupant to a meeting, discuss the matter and see how they can resolve the issues. The body corporate cannot apply for the eviction of a tenant. They can ask the owner of the unit to not extend the lease of the tenant and then terminate the lease at the end of the lease period. Yeah. But they have no right to evict the tenant.
All right. Thank you so much, Chantel. We've got Beggy on the line from Yeoville. A very good afternoon to you, Beggy.
Good.
All right, Baba. How are you? How's feeling?
Yeah, but angazi ukuthi sinenkinga la kwesetting let home swiftly court eYuvel khona back and forth isikhiwo. Ama-agent ethu esivame ukuthi basinenejele iflat abasinenejele ngendlela e-right. Lesifuna ukuthi sikwazi ukuthi ne-AGM nabo abakhona ukukhuluma nathi and abafuna ukukhuluma nathi. Then sicela ukuthi basinike ama-books wona ama-audit ukuthi sifuna ukwazi imali ze-flat zihamba kanjani because kune-something engenzeki right. And then so to kamasipala bayakhokha sometimes abakhokhi and then amathenda ayakhokha and then ama-owner ayakhokha. Then sinalo nkinga ukuthi kadla nendiya engesilona i-owner lalapha efletini ukuthi singenza kanjani ukuthi sisizakale.
Yini lama-problems leniba nawo?
Ama-problems esifanayo akakhona ukumanager iflat. Lesinama-complaint ukuthi kwenzeka something esethini akakhona ukuyilungisa. Let's say kunomuntu i-tenant noma afuna what you call it, i-deposit yabo baqeda abafena i-deposit yabo. Two, sesicela ukuthi kusiwe ne-AGM sibe ne-meeting nabo abafuna ukuthi nahlale phansi nabo sibe ne-meeting. Then ensukwini kule-traffic ne-AGM asazi behlangana nolani ngoba ngozana ngama-owner akazi lutho ngale ndawo le-AGM ukuthi singenze njani ukuthi sikwazi ukuthi sixhumane nalabantu and nabo abafuna ukuba singabophi kodwa imali yethu laphayana.
All right, Beggy, siyabonga kakhulu ukusishayela. Siyathemba ukuthi 16:30 futhi takusida-ke after leli khefu. Sitawuthatha-ke leli khefu legcina koma nje ungayinzawo siyabuya khona nyalo. All right, we're now back with the final segment of the show. And I'm going to go straight to the Windy City in Port Elizabeth, where our guest is. Now, Chantel, before we went to the ad break, we had Beggy from Yeoville. He's basically complaining about his agent, saying that he doesn't do anything for them. There've been numerous complaints leveled against his office, but then he hasn't acted. He doesn't even attend their meetings. What should happen to that agent?
Look, the members of the body corporate, if they are not happy with the services rendered by the managing agent, can call a special general meeting. They can pass a resolution and have the managing agent removed from office. You must understand that the trustees elected by the members of the body corporate appoint agents to assist them with the administration, control and management of the common property. Generally, the managing agents attend the quarterly trustees' meetings and they similarly attend the AGM. It's imperative for the managing agent to be there in the role of facilitating the meeting and guiding the trustees who manage the meeting and answering questions that the owners may have at those meetings, particularly with regard to the budget, with what happened in the previous financial year, what the plans are for the ensuing fiscal year, and going through audited financial statements with the members of the body corporate. If the managing agent, therefore, is not playing an active role, then I would recommend that if the managing agent is not playing their part, that the members get together. If the trustees are not willing to terminate the contract with the managing agent at the end of their term, that the members call for the removal of the managing agent and appoint a suitably qualified managing agent to manage and administer the scheme with the trustees.
All right, thank you so much, Chantel. I hope our team will put up a specimen of a Levies statement that our guest will help us analyse it. Now, how would you add to that, Marina?
Most important thing for listeners to remember, and if it's one thing they take away from this show, is that the managing agent there's a master-servant relationship, which the law used to refer to. The managing agent is the servant and the body corporate is the master in the relationship. So basically, and that wording is specific to the legislation, the buck stops with the trustees. You can't blame the managing agent if things are going wrong. You as the trustees hold ownership in that building, and it's up to you to ensure, as Chantal was saying, that you've got the right person for the job. And if they're not the right person for the job, then you need to look at terminating their mandate.
All right. All right. If you look at that statement, what red flags can you pick up from this? All right, it's still being sorted. Let's now talk a bit more about the issue of overhanging trees. So the neighbor's tree is overhanging onto my property, thereby dropping fruits and leaves on a daily basis, which leave an absolute mess on my property. Whose responsibility is it?
Within a sectional title scheme,
Within a
you're
sectional
talking?
yeah.
Well, the common property, usually where gardens are the responsibility of the body corporate. So common property areas, the body corporate would need to maintain and keep in a good order, etc. So you would need to ask the trustees what they're doing about the maintenance service. In general common law, if somebody's tree is overhanging over my wall, then I would be able to cut the fruits off that tree, the part that's overhanging. But trees can cause trouble, simply where in complexes, because also their root systems can be problematic to structure and that kind of thing. So, and dark, if trees are growing too high and they create darkness for a unit. But that is very much within the realms of the body corporate. And usually the managing agent's function is to get hold of the garden, whoever's supplying that service, and talk about a plan of action or a policy for that particular complex on how to deal with the trees.
All right. Now, Advocate, in conclusion, what sort of tips would you have for owners of sectional titles?
Well, the tips is basically to know the rules in and out, because that's how you will know your rights and where to go when you want to complain, and ensure that you attend AGMs, because a lot of decisions are taken at AGMs. And in your absence, then decisions will be made for you. That is where you can be able to raise your voice so that certain things can be taken into account, because you now live in this community.
Okay.
And then obviously also get to know more about the Ombudsman and what it has been created for, because if you are not happy with what is happening with your body or the trustees, then you know that you can always go to the Ombudsman with your dispute to complain.
Right, indeed. Okay, we've got one final caller, Sindile from Soshanguve. Very good afternoon.
Yeah, Njani.
Siyaphila kunjani mama?
Ngiyaphila.
Aha.
Sindile from Soshanguve.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a community like a Kasi, normal Kasi, but at the moment, kunabantu decide to in the community. They have registered for owners association, and now sign a petition without knowing what the complex and what check imali it's not 600, I don't know what. So how do you stop that? In the complex.
All right, Siyabonga kakhulu Sindile. Basically, she's complaining that it's a community in a township setting. So they have asked to pay 600 Rand and they don't even know what they're paying for.
That's often an issue, and I think in that kind of setup, first of all, I think the community ombud has got the discretion to decide whether or not that kind of scheme falls under the community ombud. First of all, if it's not sectional title or homeowners association, and I think that probably would fall under the ombud. And again, you know, I suppose people have got to all just understand that you can't just be asked to pay something when you don't understand what it's for. You know, you've got to empower yourself, and knowledge is power.
All right.
So that's the main thing from my side.
All right. Chantal, Marina, and Advocate, thank you so much, ladies, for joining us this afternoon. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I'm for taking their time to share their valuable insights. And please join us again next week, Monday, for yet another live consumer affairs discussion show. Our program repeats every Thursday night from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. right here on SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. From Miss Impio Ngwane and the rest of the team in Salagashi.
Yilungelo Lakho. Yilungelo lakho,